What's up everyone and welcome back. With Nate Diaz fight on ice, Dustin Poirier says he's up for fighting Justin Gaethje next. With how much stock Dustin Poirier's name has garnered over the last year on account of back-to-back wins over Conor McGregor, the Diamond is in a pretty good spot. He's still considered one of the top lightweight contenders in the world and has the choice of moving up to welterweight to fight some of the top guys there. Ever since he lost to lightweight champion Charles Oliveira in December, he's been embroiled in talks to fight Nate Diaz. But with those plans hitting a snag recently and Poirier relaying that Diaz is looking closer to retirement than the octagon, it's unclear what's next for the Diamond. But now, in a response to a fan on Twitter who mentioned the idea of taking on Gaethje if he beats Oliveira for the title in May, the Diamond is throwing his support behind this move. This is how he responded to that idea. Maybe that's the move. Gaethje is taking on Oliveira for the title at UFC 274 in May. Given how Poirier remains one of the top guys in the lightweight division, and that Poirier beat Gaethje back in 2017 by a 4th-round TKO, this could be an intriguing bout. Both have improved since their last encounter, and have fought for the lightweight title, both coming up short. If Gaethje were to beat Oliveira for the 155-pound strap, there could be some people that would say that Poirier could be the next #1 contender. But what are your thoughts on Poirier wanting to challenge for the title next if Gaethje wins? Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest fight news. What is the best thing about training with Khamzat Chimaev? Darren Till lets us know. Darren Till came into the UFC as an experienced 22-year-old kickboxer and went on a pretty impressive unbeaten run of 6 fights, winning all except one draw against Nicholas Darby, including a first-round TKO win over Donald Cerrone. It was enough to earn him a title shot against then welterweight champion Tyron Woodley in 2018. Woodley beat Till pretty handily in their 2018 encounter, but since then, he's lost 3 of his last 4 fights, all but one of those bouts being at middleweight. Till knew he had to make a change to get back on track and get out of this slump, in which he's currently riding a 2-fight losing streak. Over the last few weeks, he's made it very public that he's moved gyms and started training at the All-Stars Training Center in Sweden and his new friendship with Khamzat Chimaev. The two have taken the MMA media world by storm, doing all sorts of interviews with all kinds of outlets. Now, Till reveals that one of the biggest reasons he loves being around Khamzat and training with him isn't only because of his skill set, especially in the grappling department. Sure, Till has realized he's needed to put together his kickboxing and his wrestling to become more formidable, but in his mind, there's something else, something between the ears that really gets Till going. This is what he told ESPN about Khamzat.
I just like his whole aura, and I like his for me, more important than anything, it's not his wrestling or his how fit he is, it's his mentality. And now I've come here not as Darren Till, the UFC superstar. I've come here as, in my head, Darren Till, the beginner, who's starting over, Darren Till 2.0. And
Khamzat has not only won all of his fights in his MMA career, but he's done it in devastating fashion, finishing all of his opponents inside of 2 rounds. Now, going 4-0 in the UFC, Khamzat is preparing for his biggest bout to date, a fight against former welterweight title challenger Gilbert Burns on April 9th, which very well could be a #1 contenders bout. Till, meanwhile, is still training and angling to get back in the octagon later this year. What do you make of Till's comments about Khamzat? Urijah Faber talks Cody Garbrandt. Team Alpha Male is Urijah Faber's MMA gym, where he's helped hone some of the top guys in the lighter weight divisions, including TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt. For Cody specifically, he's had a pretty rough go over the last few years. He was undefeated when he finally won the UFC bantamweight title in 2016, beating Dominic Cruz via unanimous decision at UFC 207. But he was then finished by TJ Dillashaw in his next fight, and has never been the same since that bout. Since then, he's lost 4 of his last 5 fights, including a rematch against Dillashaw, who later popped for EPO. He even moved down to flyweight, hoping that he would have an advantage against smaller competition. But even that didn't go so well, having been knocked out cold in the first round in his 125-pound debut against Kai Kara-France this past December. Now riding a 2-fight losing streak, it's unclear where Garbrandt goes from here. As his coach and longtime mentor in the sport, Urijah has seen Cody's struggles, and while he was coy about the reason for his slump, he did give a little tidbit that could spell out that there's more to the whole thing.
He's had his own battles inside, outside the octagon, and that's, more his story to tell, but very young guy, the world's his oyster if he, gets right on the right track and makes it happen.
Faber went on to express his optimism in Cody being able to get out of this slump and fight for the belt again in the future. But what do you make of Faber's comments regarding Colby Garbrandt's recent struggles? UFC is looking to match up Sean Strickland against Alex Pereira for July pay-per-view. ESPN's Brett Okamoto is reporting that the UFC is in talks to set up a stellar middleweight fight between Sean Strickland and Alex Pereira. This is what he tweeted out. Super interesting matchup in the works for UFC 277 on July 30th. Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira is verbally agreed to per sources. Has the look of an all-action fight on the feet. No official location for this card yet. This fight is interesting on multiple levels. First, Strickland is currently ranked number 4 in the middleweight division and has been getting a big push from the promotion and the media over the last few months. It certainly helped that he recently beat Jack Hermansson via unanimous decision in their Fight Night main event in early February. He's also been pretty vocal on the mic about all sorts of things, from geopolitics to the fight game. Strickland has been touted as a possible title challenger, given how champion Israel Adesanya has been fighting and beating most of the top competition. And if he keeps this up, Adesanya is going to need more contenders. Pereira, meanwhile, is an unranked middleweight who is only entering his 7th professional MMA fight, but he's an absolute monster kickboxer, a multiple-time champion with the distinction of having been the only man to knock out current middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. He KO'd Adesanya in their second kickboxing encounter in Brazil back in 2017. Pereira made his UFC debut last November, making a statement with a win via flying knee knockout in the 3rd round. He's also beaten a tough Bruno Silva via unanimous decision earlier this month in a Fight Night event. After that win, Pereira called out the number 2 ranked middleweight fighter and the next title challenger, Jared Cannonier. Now, this fight against Strickland could act as a title shot eliminator if Strickland wins. However, if Pereira is able to beat Strickland, especially in impressive fashion, could it be possible that the UFC will already match him up against the champion, Adesanya? What do you think? How do you think this fight between Strickland and Pereira will go? And do you feel this will be a number 1 contenders bout? Nate Diaz asks UFC to release him. With 1 fight left on his current UFC contract, according to multiple reports, Nate Diaz had been angling to fight Dustin Poirier and had thoughts about retiring right after that. But those plans seemed to hit a snag this week when Poirier announced that he believed the Diaz fight was dead on account of Diaz supposedly retiring. Just last week, UFC President Dana White announced that the UFC would be making sure that Diaz fight out his contract. This is what he stated to Brett Okamoto in that interview regarding Nate Diaz.
Yeah, we'll get him a fight. Yeah. We owe him fights. I mean, I say this all the time. We got to give these guys 3 fights a year. Yeah. We'll get him a fight.
But now, after Poirier let it be known that Diaz was closer to retirement than to fight, there's been a lot of speculation about whether or not this is actually the case. Many people don't believe Diaz would actually retire. However, in recent tweet, Diaz all but confirmed what he wants to do with his next career move. This is what he tweeted to the UFC and the promotion's top brass in a recent post. I'd like to request to be released from the UFC, Dana White, Hunter. I apologize for asking online, but you don't give me a fight ASAP, I got to do. Diaz wasn't done as he followed that up with this tweet. Mother be crying cause they get dropped from the UFC, I can't pay out this. Diaz's last fight was against current number 1 welterweight contender Leon Edwards, having dropped a unanimous decision to Rocky at UFC 263 in June of last year. Since then, he's called out Dustin Poirier, and even Dana White earlier this year stated that he'd be surprised if there wasn't a trilogy fight between Diaz and Conor McGregor set up somewhere down the line. But what do you think of Diaz's tweets to the UFC asking to be released? Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel to see more videos just like this. See you next time.